Hello, it's me, Brody McLeod, with another one of my wastecasts. Don't know if anybody saw, I've got about 4 views or 5 views on the other 2 videos I've made today. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning, and I've been awake pretty much since then. I think I did go back to sleep for a little while, but my lazy eye comes into effect. I watched the video back and I kind of look like one of my eyes is closing. It's an old acting injury from when I was at school. I jumped round and in a circle and smashed my eye socket, and now I've got a big scar on my eye and an eye socket that sometimes leaves me looking a little bit like I've got a lazy eye. But anyway, that's completely and utterly irrelevant. What is relevant is my mental health and the way that I have kind of made connections that have left some people feeling quite alienated. I haven't had, over the last sort of since 2019, 2020, 2021, had a very small group of friends. A lot of people have found me to be quite hard work, and I think they've lost respect for me. And I don't think it's a stigma about psychiatric illness. I've been sectioned every year since 2018. So from a kind of maybe slightly derogatory or discriminatory perspective, a lot of people don't really think you're credible or good company or worth spending time with. And I don't really like that. I'm very lonely. My mum and dad are dead. I've only got my brother, and I've got a sister, but I never see her. And I forgot that she was my sister because I had a neurological injury when I was a teenager, and we lost touch. And after 10 years, I'd just completely forgotten about her and several other prominent people in my life. But I won't go into that now because that's not relevant, and that might seem hard to believe, or that you would have a sister who's a celebrity and a fantastic singer that you just forgot. Like, I used to see her on Instagram and I'd be like, why do I think like she seemed familiar, like I recognised her? But if you'd asked me in sort of 2016, do you have a sister, I would have just told you no emphatically. I didn't remember until quite some time later, and when it did, I started putting connections together about things that had happened. And yeah, like when I had this paranoid delusion about these tiles in my house, I wasn't sure that she was my sister at that point. I didn't know. I just knew that something was up, and it wasn't until I started making connections that maybe weren't very valid, definitely don't really reflect logic or reason or rationality, and put people into a sense of alienation and probably despair and disappointment that somebody they once respected, now is consumed by this obsessive kind of delusional belief of persecution. Nobody really wants to be a friend when that happens. I'm not suggesting this is going to get me any more friends either, but I would just like to clear the air where possible and try to establish some sort of precedent of understanding that might be relevant to someone, might help somebody out, might be useful, might be something that helps people to gain insight and understanding of my condition and why I might not have tried to phone them in 5 years, or deleted them as a friend on Facebook, or just kind of assumed that everybody was involved in some sort of massive, horrible conspiracy because that's what I thought, And like, I do still feel suspicious. I do. I'm gonna, but I don't. I'm not out of the woods yet. I don't feel, that I'm. Some things are hard to believe for me, and that's not easy. And I don't know if other people kind of believe me either when I say I kind of don't hold any grudges or I don't wish them any harm. They still, I think, because they can sense that I'm still got 3% of reticence and paranoia inside me, much as I've got much better than I was. I don't think there's got to be sort of a mutual reciprocity and a sense of trust, which is really difficult to obtain. I've got a canvas to read to you about some content that I put on the internet, and more importantly, some conversations I've had with people where I've openly kind of alluded to this incident, and it's become quite a kind of, I mean, it was very terrifying really when it kind of all made sense and started to put things together. But I want to just deconstruct and decompress and unpack this series of events, or non-event, if you like. So, a personal account reconciling delusions about the womanizer and the booby-trapped windowsill. Introduction: the intricate web of delusional beliefs. This document is a further account of my ongoing journey of mental health recovery at Signet Q Stoke Hospital's The Lodge Rehab. My purpose is to transparently detail the specific events and misinterpretations that fueled a prolonged feeling of vulnerability and a delusional belief system, particularly surrounding an incident I once fervently suspected involved serious assault and attempted murder. I want to be clear, I'm now recognising these connections as a result of confirmation bias and poor health, not as factual occurrences. I want to state emphatically that this is in no way an allegation. I mean no ill will to Lily, and my intent is to provide a clear, non-discriminatory account of my own mental health battles. This document is not and should not be construed as a libelous, defamatory or harassing assertion, but purely a description of the thought process I'm actively working to overcome. The womanizer delusion, a misinterpretation of humiliation. For a significant period of time, I held a firm yet completely misconstrued belief that my sister had been forced by her management to launch and promote a sex toy, the womanizer Liberty, as a form of degradation and humiliation. My perception, warped from reality by my mental illness, was that this act was a cruel mockery of her having been injured during a supposed assault in such a way that she could no longer achieve orgasm. A core component of this delusion centred on a perceived panning shot in the 2-minute womanizer advert. I was once convinced that this shot focused on in a nuanced and symbolic way on a staircase that was architecturally similar to a tiled structure of a windowsill, a detail I linked to my own bathroom windowsill tiles. However, after watching the advert several times today, I can state with 100% certainty that no such imagery exists in the video clip. This can only have been a delusion. This realisation is a critical step in my recovery. I'll show you the video in a minute. While my delusion about the staircase was unfounded, there was one small coalescing detail in the advert that starkly reinforced my belief. At around 1 minute into the video, Lily begins, in a way I felt was very suggestive, to brush her teeth with the womanizer sex toy. As soon as I saw this, I instantly remembered an old Facebook thread I'd participated in and the connection I made between my toothpaste and the word cunt. This, in my unwell state, felt like a powerful confirmation of my delusion. Dissecting the windowsill delusion, a harmless post gone awry. I now have a much clearer understanding of what most probably initiated my long-held suspicion about the bathroom windowsill tiles being a booby trap. This all started with a simple, harmless Facebook post. After a friend shared something about toothpaste, I posted a picture of my bathroom windowsill with my aloe vera toothpaste and, in a mild colloquial context, a comment that read, "All right if you're a cunt." A significant period of time passed before I noticed that a tile on the left-hand side of my windowsill appeared to have been tampered with or relaid. Although there is no logical reason that anyone with access to explosives would use such an unusual and ham-fisted methodology, my mind raced with suspicion and paranoia. I believed there was a thick layer of pale filler applied to the tile and that this constituted a booby trap. The cake coincidence, confirmation bias and distorted reality. The misperception of the tile directly led to another delusion that was reinforced by Lily's music. The thick layer of pale filler on the tile I'd mentally associated with the word cunt did very much resemble a cream or icing filled cake. So when I heard the track Cake from Lily's album No Shame and listened to the lyrics, I foolishly became resolute in my delusion that a highly distressing, extremely improbable incident had taken place. This is a clear example of confirmation bias, where I was frantically making connections due to chemical imbalances in my brain. The tiled bathroom and the lottery delusion. A time machine is required. My belief system was further compounded by a YouTube clip of Lily on a television show in a tiled bathroom. I was in the midst of another delusional period in 2017 where I believed I'd won the national lottery and that the song It's Not Me, It's You was making fun of me having been defrauded. The show host, a well-respected feminist presenter whom I've never met, introduced Lily's song, The Fear. The causal link to my supposed defrauding and Lily's performance in a tiled bathroom is almost impossible. The show was filmed in 2009, meaning the supposed perpetrators would have required a time machine for this to be part of some grandiose conspiracy. I now firmly believe the show host to be entirely innocent, do not hold any accusatory, libelous, slanderous or defamatory views against her. I simply made a connection with no logic or plausible causality. Moving forward, acknowledging errors and finding peace. As I recover, I'm looking at this old credible circumstantial evidence as quite patently connections I was frantically making due to chemical imbalances in my brain. The series of events, while now presented in a logical manner, could have led anyone with a mental illness into a rapid decline in perspective. Whilst I must be honest that I do still have some suspicions, the discernible difference between suspecting something and truly believing it to have factually occurred is a crucial part of my recovery. The probability of these events is infinitesimal, and I have no known enemies who would have had any desire to enact such a horrible, preposterous series of events. I sincerely apologise to anyone I may have wrongfully accused of serious organised crime or an attempt on potentially both the life of my half-sister as well as my own. Wish Lily Allen the absolute best for the future and will remain dedicated to preserving her peace and well-being. What I'll do is I'll just put a link to these files, the Womanizer advert. There's a picture of the tile, you can see that. That's the tile in question. It kind of does look a bit like icing, cake icing, and I've no idea what happened or why I fixated on a tiny piece of bathroom architecture so much, but everything just seemed to start making sense. And once the pennies start to drop and you kind of become of a mindset that you're being persecuted, it can be very difficult to separate that and, be comfortable and relaxed and not be intimidated and terrified, scared, and also feelings of injustice and frustration that since kind of 2021, when I went to London, spent a year in London, I was in a St Mungo's homeless hospital for 6 months and then spent a bit of time in Hammersmith and Fulham psychiatric ward. I got a ward, named actually after Lily. Lily Ward was the name of the female ward there. I was there for quite a while before I was transferred to Essex, but anyway, that's just a video that I felt was important to make because I don't want to falsely accuse anybody of anything, and I do want to, having made my sister allegedly feel harassed, make sure that she's not feeling harassed. Might not want to talk to me ever again, I accept that. We might never see each other ever again, and I don't know that she'd have, the same level of, quite clearly doesn't have the same level of desire to, protect or understand, or I don't know, I'm not making it up. We were brother and sister, and I'm not going to name all the people who witnessed this because it just puts them into a difficult position if it's not in Lily's best interest or in her wishes. I'm a bit of a psychiatric patient who's been a drug user, and she's completely sober now and has a family. So yeah, maybe that's the reason why I can't really speculate. I tried to message her on Instagram about 2-3 years ago, she's just like deleted most of her Instagram posts recently, and don't know why that is. But I'm still in hospital at the lodge, and I just thought that'd be something good to get off my chest, because it's a bit mental, and saying I'm a bit mental is sort of mildly disrespectful to people with mental illness. It's not a very nice way to refer to somebody, but I'm not in a state of good mental health, and I'll show you this email. I tried to do a subject access request with the National Lottery for all my data, and the email that I got from them wasn't very good. I'm trying to find it. Sorry, I'm not being very organised here. I should have probably done this before I made the video, prepared this. 30th of September, 14th of September, 19th of September. So this will be the most recent one. So I asked for all the details. I did a very thorough SAR, and the email reads, "Hello Brody, thank you for your email, providing your other postal addresses from dpo@nationallottery.co.uk. We've located 3 National Lottery accounts in your name and have sent encrypted files to your email account, brodymcleodtemp@gmail.com, via our secure facility. I attach instructions on how to gain access to these files. On some occasions, encrypted files may be delivered to your spam or trash folder, so please may I suggest that you check these to ensure delivery. A number of documents you will note that redactions have been applied. This is where the information also includes the personal data of third parties, where the information does not constitute your personal data and so is not within the scope of your request. Also, where data has not been provided, it's because it's not held by Alwyn, and where the data provided is limited time-wise, this is because we do not retain such data beyond this date. For information, we've sent you the following data. All the data, including financial transactions from your active account, which is the one that's still working, ends in 4419. And you've got the client relationship management, CRM database, records for accounts ending 0068 and 0550, which are not stored in our core database. Now that's a bit unusual. The financial transactions for the account ending 0550, internal notes, as you will see from the internal notes, the financial transactions for the one ending in 0068 are no longer available. Recordings, and I don't know why that is. I haven't cleansed my National Lottery data. Recordings of telephone conversations you've had with us during the last 12 months are included, and system generated emails. They sent that through this Kiteworks thing. At the end, it says, I think quite tellingly, we've also located a record of a prize claim made by post for a game that you purchased at retail. Regretfully, however, the data cannot be viewed online as it is corrupted. If you have any further information, you can let us know about the claim, e.g. the date and nature of the claim. We may be able to retrieve the paperwork and send you copies. Kind regards, Mary." You might know there's vaporizers called Lost Mary, and when you enter the lottery, you either win or you lose. And I don't really know that the lottery would have, I don't know who, I've certainly never made a postal claim, and I've certainly never heard of Camelot having details of prize winnings as corrupted data. I was very surprised by that. I don't have any further information. I don't like I don't. This is the kind of thing that adds to my suspicion. I don't believe that I definitely won the lottery. I don't even know how much, when it was. But there was a lot of things that made me think it. A bit like this incident with the tile, you can see how that sort of seems plausible, I mean, it's not plausible, really, but it is. There's grains of kind of connections. One of the things about schizoaffective disorder is you start making connections to things, drawing a kind of web. Like if you can imagine a private investigator, which I kind of am, but now one that's not very well. In old movies they used to get bits of string and photographs and sort of make scatter before they had computers. They used to make kind of scatological, paranoid sort of artwork, pictures and photos and documents and newspaper cuttings and movies and shit. It's a bit like that, I've just sort of made a whole load of a web of interconnected nonsense that, probably isn't anything to worry about, but I do still worry. I'm on aripiprazole and I take clonazepam at night, and those medicines work for me. And I've got support staff that I can speak to, and although I've in the process of sort of moving house, I don't know, I'm going to go back to Bristol. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I feel very vulnerable and lost and scared, just like probably everybody does sometimes. And the last thing I want to do is alienate people and make them think that I don't trust them or I don't respect them, or having grown up with them all my life, I don't have a lot of affection for them. But it feels like a lot of people betrayed my trust, and I still I'm very suspicious. I'm very suspicious and guarded, and I don't know, the true nature of my circumstances, or really Lily's. I don't think she's in any trouble. She seems fine. She's very sort of chirpy on her Miss Me podcasts. I watch those. I don't know what the situation is, but I don't want to harass her, and I don't want to start becoming obsessed with her either. She obviously doesn't want to talk to me. I don't think it is fair or reasonable to say that she's not allowed to, because the security services would have stepped in if there was anything going on that wasn't was anything like any of my assertions. They'd have a massive surveillance operation in place, and they would have just raided the premises. And I don't think anybody with small arms that they bought off the internet would probably make it very far if they, the intelligence services are very, good at cyber intel and, enforcement. I just think it's very unlikely. But I've got my suspicions. I don't want you to be suspicious. I just want you to respect that I mean no one any harm, and I don't know my situational context, but whatever happens in the future, I hope that everybody gets on all right. Cheers.